Welcome to Biz Wire. I'm Joseph Nordstrom in Beijing. In the past few months, there's been much complaining and worry in China's state-run media about the impact of Japan's quantitative easing program on the Chinese economy. Even those outside of China have gotten in on the act, like David Lee, who wrote in the Financial Times that China has become the de facto shock absorber for Abenomics, coined after the current Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Many others, though, are not so worried and are in fact positive about Japan's stimulus program on China. The April edition of the IMF's Asia-Pacific Economic Outlook identified two potential spillovers of Japanese QE into other Asian economies, financial and trade spillovers, neither of which are necessarily bad for China. There is concern that monetary easing in Japan could lead to volatile capital inflows into other Asian economies, but the fear of speculative capital going into China are inflated as China's State Administration of Foreign Exchange, with the acronym SAFE, controls both the size and direction of cross-border capital flows. Just because China's capital account is still closed and the movement of money restricted, though, does not mean China is invulnerable to speculative capital inflows. For example, SAFE has recently stepped up measures to control illegal capital moving into the country in the form of inflated export invoicing. The other concern, trade spillovers, would be limited for China if not positive. The worry is that the side effect of Japanese QE, a weaker yen, could undermine the competitiveness of direct competitors for exports of final goods. Chinese and Japanese products do go head-to-head more often these days, as China has made a concerted effort to push into higher value-added segments such as cars, shipbuilding, steel, and heavy machinery. The IMF actually has such a thing as an export similarity index that shows that in 2008, Japan ranked 7th on the list of Chinese export competitors, up from 25th place in 1995. But still, Japan is not yet a direct competitor to Chinese exports. If anyone should be concerned about the effects of Japan's monetary easing, it should be South Korea, who is a direct competitor to Japanese exports. To the extent that China competes with Japan on manufacturing exports, which would be affected by the weaker yen, Chinese real wages remain significantly lower than that of Japanese workers. The average factory worker in Japan made 10.5 times that of the average Chinese worker in 2011, although to some degree this difference reflects much higher productivity in Japanese workers, who were judged to be 5.6 times more productive in 2010. This productivity gap is still smaller than the 10.5 times reflected in average wages, indicating there are still major cost advantages to producing in China. Shinzo Abe's so-called shock and awe tactics to revive the world's third biggest economy seems to have paid off in May, with the biggest rise in exports since 2010. The net result of Japanese QE could in fact be quite positive for China. Japan is the third largest consumer of Chinese exports after the United States and the European Union, and recent weakness has impacted China's overall export profile. If monetary easing were to restore demand in Japan, this could stabilize China's weakening export growth. In addition, for countries like China that import intermediate goods from Japan, the cheaper yen would help increase profits for Chinese exporters. If Abenomics can get Japan's economy heading upwards again, consumers there would have more money and confidence to buy, some of which would likely be spent on Chinese-made goods, but it's not easy for Chinese media to say something positive about their historical rival. You're watching Biz Wire on the Blue Ocean Network. Stay tuned for more in Economic Insight.